Mm-hmm. And we should be live. I will again add some music onto the stream, so just 1 second. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we should have it in the background. Nope. 1 second. Just again, social media links. Okay, social media are ready. So we have Shimon again on the stream today.
Yes, hello.
And what we will do today, we will do a couple of things. First of all, we would like to go through the SAGA Orchestrator algorithm. So step by step, Shimon broke it down. I made some comments, so we will go through this one by one. Then we also have some PRs, this time mine, and we will try to look at our backlog, I guess, to plan our work. Honestly, I feel like I would like to speed it up a little bit, so I will be putting more effort of my own onto this, I guess, and we'll see how it goes. But going back to the orchestrator, Shimon, you want to take over? I mean, you want to describe what is happening here and what's your idea behind it?
Yes. Okay, so as you can see, I created the schema of the algorithm, and it's the flow of the processing the message by the orchestrator. And let's start. I will introduce what is the flow, and I will read your comments. I will answer what to those questions. So let's start. The orchestrator received a message, so it can be error message or the regular message, which is related to the transaction. Error message means that we have a transaction and something happened during this transaction, and it should be somehow compensation must be processed. Yes.
I will break in. Sorry. So basically, what we are doing with the first step, like going into our diagram, would be, for example, this little thing. So we are receiving a certain payload, right?
Yeah.
So that would be this arrow here, I imagine, right?
And it doesn't. No. Yes, I mean receiving the message is like this arrow, but there are two types messages. Let's say
Yeah.
message, transaction message, let's say regular message, and the error message when something went wrong. And I want to, recognize this situation at the very start
Mm-hmm.
and to run a compensation algorithm or the algorithm related to the next step of transaction.
Okay. Okay.
So uh, let's say it's not error message. We'll back to the error message later because it's the major flow will be go through. This is not error message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with that we received a message and this is not error.
Mm-hmm.
So we take this message and read what is the name of this message. I mean, which step is this message
Mm-hmm.
from the SAGA model that is um, s- SAGA model stores the information what a transaction look like, what are the steps of every transaction. Yes, so
So
we
maybe
want.
we could because maybe we could rephrase what is written down here because
Mm-hmm.
you kind of described it in more detail, and maybe that would be, just for the future documentation, that might be
Mm-hmm.
a better way. So uh, we want to uh, once again,
Okay,
we would like to
so step
understand.
model. Mm-hmm. It's not the information. What is the state of our transaction? It's only the information from our SAGA model, which was read from file or from internet. It's the definition of our transactions. So we won't get this step to know what is the next step, right?
Oh, okay, I see. So you would like to basically, because in code, I don't know if you had the chance to look
Yeah, yeah.
into my
That's my
PRs,
point.
but I've created a class that will basically be called a transaction, and this transaction
Mm-hmm.
will have a name and it will have steps. So I imagine that you would like to get through the steps to see inside the transaction if it has next step here.
Yes. Uh, does the step model exist? Uh, and what I mean that it maybe happen that we receive the message with a queue name which is not recognized. Yeah, I mean it's very it shouldn't be happen. So that's why we just want to log this situation that okay, you sent the message that is not recognized by our system, is
Mm-hmm.
not included in our definition. Do something with this.
But we
We.
won't be able to because uh, so maybe we kind of missed this
Mm-hmm,
because like going to the top, like again to here.
mm-hmm,
Uh, I imagine that we will need, from the orchestrator point of view, we will need to, well, maybe not. We will need to not assign. I'm missing. We will need to subscribe to those different events,
yes.
right? So we will need to be subscribed to start order payload, validate inventory. Validate inventory done, process payment done, etc. So orchestrator will need to subscribe to all those events one by one. And if there is some kind of event that it's not described in the transactions, then it just won't be picked up. So this error will never happen because you're not subscribed.
No, I mean our plugins are subscribed, and our plugins will push the message with the queue name to the orchestrator. So it means that maybe our plugin, maybe our queue configuration, something is wrong with it. With this, technically, it can happen, in my opinion, because if you look on the interface of the orchestrator, we're just pushing the messages. We have just queue name and the input message. It means that from perspective of orchestrator, we technically can pass the wrong queue name. That's because that's why I designed it like this, because if we don't design it in this way, it can happen in the future and we will not be prepared, because maybe our plugin will be will have a bug or something went wrong with configuration. And that's why I rather want to know that we don't have this queue name in our register.
But then maybe I don't understand something. What is the queue name then?
This is the like name of the step, let's say, and yeah, I mean it should be in definition of our transaction, like account created.
So
yes.
I will show you and on the screen the.
So I mean, this is probably this operation has something like that.
Yeah, so we have we try to speak the same language. So we would have a transaction, and a collection of transactions is something that I called transaction ledger. So the transaction ledger basically consists of all the transactions that we would like to define inside our orchestrator, right? And for some kind of reference, or to be able to, well, maybe log something and to be more human, we would get the transaction name. And inside the transactions, we of course have operations. Right. And inside inside the operation, I imagine that we will have the step number, so we are able to sort them. We will have the event name, event completion name, and compensation event name for the certain operation. So I assume that what you are referring to by queue name is the event name.
Yes. This it's event name, and you can open the iOrchestrator interface, and it's probably.
What
SAGA Orchestrator, okay. Yes, and as you can see, SAGA Orchestrator has push method, and here we have a queue name, so It's the queue name we want to push to our orchestrator, and it should be queue event name. Maybe we need to decide what name we should use, and the input message. And the input message contains the compensation, payload, and ID.
Yeah. So.
And
this is fine, but
so,
from my perspective, again, if we are subscribing to the events on the queue, we are not able to get an event that we are not aware of, because we will be subscribing on the basis of those event names, or queue names. So
yes, I agree.
We would retrieve literally all of them from the database and start subscribing. Or when it can fail is if we would make it a bit simpler. So we would make just one event type, like underneath, right? So we would have our ledger with all the transactions defined, and inside the transaction the steps and event names, right? And then if we would make a publish subscribe pattern on the queue just to a single message, so there is a single event, maybe it would be called, for example, Orchestrator event. And inside this Orchestrator event, if you would be defining the steps, the payload, the compensation payload, etc., right? Then you might have a situation that you are reading something and it is not defined in the database.
Yes, but still, I see from I look from the perspective of the orchestrator. Technically, is possible to receive the queue name, which is not included in the SAGA model. That's why I designed this step. Does the step model exist? Because it can happen because of bug, because of something.
But how?
For example, we are subscribed by RabbitMQ to the message to the queue, which is not included in SAGA model. Why? I don't know, but it can happen because of some situations. Of course, we can just get the step model because we are sure that is there. But if it will happen in the future, we'll be totally surprised that something went wrong and we don't know why. And what is happening, yeah? But I can omit this. I think that it's the very safe way of
from my perspective, as I said, that also depends on how we are subscribing to the queue. I imagine that it would be safe to subscribe to each event separately, so we can expect only the events to be picked up which we are subscribed to. Then we don't need this step. If we are, because from logical point of view, we are only subscribing to the events, we are only picking the events that we are aware of. There is no other way of being subscribed to of picking up something that we don't want to receive. We are receiving only the things that we are aware of, period, nothing else. And then
Okay, if we, for example, use RabbitMQ, but what if we create some other plugins that work differently, or we will somehow someone wants to, register just the orchestrator in his app and push some message without a plugin, just plain orchestrator, then it this guy can just send the message to the orchestrator in his code, and we have the we can choose if we want to log the error if something went wrong, or we will just throw the exceptions, something like I don't know, invite operation exception, because or aggregate exception.
if you want to have extra step of safety, that's fine. But like, if you are using a queue, then all the queues that I worked with, so 2, had the topics or some other mechanism that would be reflected in the system as, I would imagine, the event name, and then we are always subscribing just to this single one. So
so you want to subscribe to the single one queue, not the
no. That's
okay.
I said that there is a possibility that we can either read the event names from the from all that from all operations that are from all transactions. So we are literally getting the whole database of events that we have, and then one by one we are subscribed to those events, and that means that we are only eligible to pick these ones from the queue. We won't pick anything else, we will just pick those ones. But there is another option. Without creating so many different events, we could create just one type of event, so subscribe to only one thing. So we would create a topic that maybe would be named Orchestrator message or something like that, and Orchestrator would subscribe to Orchestrator message only, and inside the Orchestrator message we would have the definition for the operation, for example. So the payload and the name of the event, and then as we are subscribing to some kind of generic event that might contain anything, then this will be error prone. So someone can put something in the event name that we are not aware of.
Yes. So as you can see, there are multiple ways to implement the plugin.
Yeah,
that's why I think this is good option.
I would keep it, but now, from our discussion, it kind of started in my head that is it better to subscribe to each event separately or create a generic thing like that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think about multiple queues or one queues, and I decided to create multiple input queues in a RabbitMQ plugin, because it was more natural for me, because it's rather like if we implement something, it's we have appropriate queues, because sometimes we want to have this handled by other systems if it's event, of course, it's not message, because message is rather handled only one time.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. Right now in RabbitMQ plugin, it's implement that you have uh, you can, to be honest, you can implement configure plugin right now in two ways, because
Mm-hmm.
you, of course, you can probably have one queue and yeah, no, never mind. Let's right now RabbitMQ have multiple queues, not only one, and you can configure queue names, and RabbitMQ. I mean, Orchestrator is subscribed to multiple queues, and it passed the messages to the orchestrator. I mean, RabbitMQ plugin passed to the orchestrator messages from the multiple queues.
Okay,
Sorry.
so you
Sorry.
basically have multiple different messages that would have
Yes.
different
Yes.
event
Yes.
names
Yes.
instead of just having one type of message with which would have the.
Yes, I thought maybe we can right now create this second option, but no. Right now is like we have
No,
multiple
I
queues.
would also go
Mm-hmm.
with the option of subscribing to all different events. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's fine. As I said, I think that if we would just create one type of message and this message would switch, I mean the contents would switch with the different event names, etc. Then it
Mm-hmm.
would be very error prone. So yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not complex steps, so I mean, it's not the big deal to create,
No,
something
it's
like
not.
okay.
But now it has
Mm-hmm.
risen.
Mm-hmm.
Look how far we have gotten with the discussion on just how we
Yeah.
should subscribe to the queues at this point. But let's go. Then we have
Mm-hmm.
does the step model exists?
Yeah. So it's not exist in our definition, so we go to the log error,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and we finish the work.
Yes.
If the step model exists in our Saga model, then we change, is it the first step? Because if it is,
Mm-hmm.
then we want to generate a transaction ID and create the uh, record in our Saga store that we started the new transaction. I
Mm-hmm.
mean the Saga log. And if it's not the first step, we get the transaction state, which we saved in the first message here. Yes. So this new transaction, I mean, is the information about transaction, and transaction state is the record from the Saga log that contains, what was the previous message, what are the compensations. Maybe not, because compensation could be stored somewhere else, but where is our transaction right now, and now we are checking is the message is valid due to the current state of the transaction, because maybe we are on the next on the step 2 and we received the message for the step 5,
Mm-hmm.
and it can happen uh, because of some bug, or maybe uh, uh, someone maybe configuration
That
is wrong. Yeah, so it
this
can
won't
happen.
this will not happen, Simon. Again, sorry, but
Why?
why? Because the orchestrator will not launch step 5,
Mm-hmm.
or well, maybe I will ask you a different question. how Orchestrator would launch a step 5 when it is deciding on which step should be launched next.
Because Orchestrator sent, let's say, received the second step, and it sent the message about the to the next step. Yes, for example, to 3 and to the service. And service, instead of sending the message for third step, it will, for example, send message for 5th step because of some bug. It will be bug because of course, Orchestrator is responsible for redirecting these messages, but the bug can be on the client side.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the wrong message will be sent to the wrong queue.
So this means that on the Saga log side, we should also mark which step has been already launched.
Yes, because if a transaction will need to be compensated, then we need to know from what the point and where. I mean, it can be. Because in the error message it will be only the transaction ID, and then based on transaction ID you can get the transaction state. You see that okay, we are on the fourth step, so we need to send these compensations and abort this transaction. Instead of sending in the error message queue name, and it can also be the wrong queue name in the error message because of the bug of the client. And now we don't have this situation because we know what is the state of transaction.
Yes, you're right.
We know what we sent, so we know what we need to compensate.
Yeah. Okay. So that pretty much answers how the validation works. Okay.
Yeah. And so if transaction goes okay, everything is fine, you can update the transaction state that you received a valid message for the step, and you can update the transaction state and save the compensation. And you wrote the comment, do we need to save compensations? Maybe we can handle it differently. What do you mean? How you can you want to store compensation and to send it in the future? I mean,
that's what I had in. That's wait, I will navigate again to the top, because I was always on what you have done, like entirely here. I was always watching on what we have drawn, above. So I was kind of trying to. No, we even wrote that keeps track of Saga's run and compensation operations for each step. So
because we need to save the compensation.
We need it. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. And after we save compensation, we can create an output message with the payload of the input message and notify subscribers that a new message for this step appeared. And that's basically whole flow for the case where it is not the error message. And if it's error message that contains our transaction ID, then we want to get a transaction state from the SAGA log I mentioned.
So what? But I will ask. So error message. You mean that this is a situation when there is a compensation required? So basically, this is a
yes.
compensation path,
Mm,
right?
yes, I mean, it happens when something went wrong with the service during the transaction, and it I mean, some sort of exception or valid states in the system, and then it will it will send the message that the transaction should be aborted because something happened. And
Right. So
of course,
this is the situation where we are running the compensation
yes,
operations.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Of course, we can also implement. I mean, some patterns to maybe uh, provide the resiliency or something like that. But it's for the future. Maybe
What do you
it's
have
the
in
risk.
mind?
I mean, to maybe. Um, repeat some steps uh, some specific times to and then
Retry.
retry. Yeah, I won't find this word exactly, so any retry mechanism, but it's for the future.
Okay.
It's not so important like that. So we know that a transaction should be aborted because something happened, and does a transaction state exist? And we can argue here again, is it possible? Because technically you can send the error message with a transaction that don't exist. Because, for example, someone, I mean, client sent the wrong ID, yeah, to the error message. So I think it can happen.
I think that
And
we are
then
having a bit of an issues here because we are speaking different terms to describe certain things. So if you could explain to me then what does the transaction state?
okay.
What is
So
it?
transaction state, it's this this record in our SAGA log that contains the information where we are right now.
Okay, so that could
in the
be
transaction.
so that could be a like looking at the Visual Studio again. That would be a certain operation inside the transaction.
I mean, operation is like definition, not the current state of the transaction. I mean, the transaction can be, for example,
so
like
that would be then again like switching to the so that would be a database entity.
yes, that contains the, for example, previous state. Where are we right now in our transaction for this transaction ID?
So you are checking this in the SAGA log,
basically.
Yes. Okay.
Because in the SAGA log we have information about active transactions. And we want to check if the transaction with this ID we have in our error message exists. Maybe not exists, then client provided wrong ID to our error message. Because client sent the error message with the not existing transaction ID. It can happen because of some bug.
So the state of the transaction is if it's finished, not finished, started,
Yes,
etc. And the
yes,
step
in progress.
and the step is something that is defined inside the transaction with operations.
Yes, the step
Okay.
is the operation for your in your nomenclature.
Okay. We need to
It's the
be on
part
the
of the
common ground in
definition.
here with
Yes,
that
yes.
because we will get crazy with.
Mm-hmm.
We need to try to name those things in the same way so we understand what we are talking about with each other, right?
Yes, right.
That's why I'm
So
asking so many questions.
yeah, that's good because I work with this a lot, so I remember what I have done, and you don't know maybe so what I created, what definition are. So it's good to refresh the knowledge.
Yeah.
So basically, the step model is operation in your model,
Mhm.
transaction model,
Mhm.
let's say.
Mhm. Mhm.
In my transaction model, in the orchestrator side is like we have a SAGA model which contains transactions, and transaction has steps, in your case operations.
We should
Um,
refactor that then
mhm.
to the same naming convention.
Yeah, yes, I think it should be done. Uh, so yeah, we need to write it maybe. Let's
I'll
now.
I'll write it in my
Yeah,
notepad
yeah. So write
again.
it. And yeah, you have a question, how does step differ from state? So we describe this, and oh no, should be considered rollback or only log errors. We might check for correlation ID. I mean, here we know that the transaction doesn't exist, so we can't run the compensation because we don't have the transaction is SAGA logs. So
Yeah.
uh, I I think it's not the case. But if the transaction state exists, so there is an active transaction right now in our system, then here we want to set a transaction state to aborted. So this record in our database and send the compensation messages to the queues. So it's the compensation mechanism. Yeah. And if we send all those messages, we can finish work. Yeah. Mm.
I'm just
And
I'm just thinking about those errors. If they have
okay.
any other repercussions when I don't know someone would be spamming with this or something, but this is really I
Mm.
think not something that we can. There is nothing we can do
I mean,
about it.
yeah, we should log situation that hello, you are
Mhm.
sending the error message with wrong ID.
Mhm.
But I think we can't do more with this
Yeah.
situation.
True. Yeah. We can. Yeah,
Uh,
so that would be a situation when someone is sending an ID, for example, it does exist, but there is
mm-hmm.
no step that they are defining or something like that. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes.
But then it means that. Hmm,
Mm,
that's a good question. Look, maybe. No, maybe we should do a rollback at least when in this situation that if there is a transaction entity in the database, if there is an entry, I would roll back everything that we have knowledge about.
Yes, that's right. And this is the next step, because if the transaction state exists, not step, state.
Okay.
Which means transaction is there is an active transaction in our database.
Okay.
Maybe the active transaction is better naming. I will change it. Thus, transact is there active transaction with provided ID in the SAGA log.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we are doing a rollback and it ends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe step and state is very similar words. So yeah, we need to avoid maybe using state or step. Let's maybe get. I will change all the step to operation. Because I see it's more understandable for you.
Then what happens if we... Okay, we do the validation. So if we already aborted something and rolled it back and then receive, for example, something happened and we are receiving the step 4, but we should not do, like, this should not happen. Can this happen?
No, because what can happen?
I'm thinking now. I'm just basically thinking out loud. If, for example, we are doing a certain transaction and it has, for example, 5 operations, and now we rolled back with our compensation path. We rolled back on step 3. And then we would somehow get a message for step 4, but this is not possible as the orchestrator wouldn't launch the step 4.
Yeah.
So that's.
I mean, it's.
That would mean that like the whole system. What I want to say is that if there would be a situation like that, so we aborted on step 3 and somehow step 4 is launched, God knows how, because for launching those steps the orchestrator is responsible for that. So if that would happen, this is not the fault of the orchestrator, but there is some kind of bug in the system, and it means that the system is losing consistency basically.
Yes, but if you receive the number 4, then here we are with the does the operation model exist? Yes. Is it the first step? No. Does the transaction operation exist in the SAGA log? Yes.
Know, and
does
we
the
have the validation
message is valid? No.
Yes, and I understand that we do have this, but now then I'm again looking forward, because you are doing the validation, and in the validation you are aware that in the step on step 3 you have rolled back this transaction, so you are automatically falling to no, so to logging the error, right? But then what it means in terms of the whole system as a whole, it means that somewhere in the system actually this step 4 happened. This is what I mean, right? But this is again something,
and it should be probably and could be compensated.
Should we roll it back? Should we? You know what I mean? This is again what I mean by this. The whole system would lose the consistency of the transactions.
That's.
But this is not on us. Like from my perspective, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I think that it can be the feature of the orchestrator, and can be said by the client probably. Should orchestrator run a compensation for the
for already failed transactions?
Yes, because maybe something went. Something changed. So, and you send it the message, so you need to roll back it. Yeah, that's right. Because the message means that something changed in the system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote it also in the notepad, so that's fine. But
that's good.
That's again overthinking it a bit, but that's how it is.
Yeah, but let's be conscious about this. And it's better to make it somewhere and think about it in the future. But right now, it's not so important. Let's create the working working system without edge cases, and then resolve edge cases.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's probably everything from me today. Now it's your part with your pull request, or maybe you have some other questions.
No, I'm good. A very good job. Thank you that you have handled it, and now I understand it. We discussed it a bit, so good job waiting for the implementation, and we are.
Thank you for your comments.
Pushing forward.
It was very good discussion, and yeah.
Yep, looking forward to the next ones. Okay, so what we wanted to do next, I am closing Miro. Let's go back to the SAGA pull requests. There are 3.
I see. And this command to core.
That would be the. Wait, that would be the. Yes, that's the first one. What I done in here is I've just basically done some renaming over the folders. So you have named it common, and I know that we spoke about naming it common, but then this is something I'm very used to, that we are creating an N-tier application, so we have layers inside the app, and I'm used to having core layer, that's the lowest one, then we have infrastructure layer, and then we have services, or the front layer. And in core we are putting the models, the abstractions, etc., so everything that it's not doing any domain operations. In infrastructure we are putting all the code that is doing some kind of domain operations and changes onto the state of the app, for example. And on the last layer, that's service or some kind of different one, however we want to name it. Sometimes if the app is small, I'm just skipping it. We are combining we are creating some kind of facade that can, for example, glue together code from the infrastructure that is handling different things. So this is just something that I'm used to. That's why I renamed the common to core.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it can be core. I mean, common. In my opinion, is also okay because core is more related. For me, it means that it has some business logic, and our common is rather some models that we want to use in multiple projects. But yeah,
That's why
core.
I named it core. That's why I named it core, because in core you shouldn't have any operations over the domain, none. This is just, as you said, for keeping models and for keeping the
But
abstractions.
our domain, let's say, domain things or domain use cases are in the orchestrator.
Yes, they not even in the orchestrator alone, but they are in their respective DLLs. Yes, that's true. However, I feel that we will have a code organized better because we will have a better structure inside the project itself. I will maybe again pop up this a little bit, but because still the project is small and okay, I couldn't even move. No, I was thinking about something now, because what I wanted to say is that I could have, of course, created those models, etc., inside the particular parser, right? So I mean, I could omit creating such DLL and just where are those? Where is it? Here. So I could create just a folder named core and put all the abstractions there. That's sometimes I'm doing this sometimes when I have a really small project. But then I've created a separate one because there are things like iParser, iTransaction Ledger Reader, etc., and they can be used by different parsers. So that's why each parser would have reference to core. So they are based on the same interfaces. So later on, when you are using the orchestrator, you are basically referring to an interface from the core.
Okay.
So if the core changes, it means that all the things inside inside particular parsers, in this case, need to change. So this kind of keeps you safe, or well, I don't really see different way to do that, because we need to hide the abstraction, or well, we need to have abstraction over the parsers, because will have different implementations for example, the readers. I mean, you want to have a certain operation on reader, read, right? But it will do that differently. That's why this abstraction is there.
Okay.
But I feel like
let's go to the PR. I mean, core is okay. Let's it can be called. I can agree with this, and I can approve this this PR. I saw it before.
I need to request
only renaming
from you
and review changes. Okay, request audio review. Yeah, I approve this. So.
Okay, I'm getting emails that it's merging and everything.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I will delete the branch. Now the other pull requests should be easier because they were based on this branch with the refactor, so they should have a lot less files. Why does it have so many? Okay, let me do it differently. I will refresh the code. Where am I? Or where do I want to be? Parsers abstraction layer, of course. Check out. And what I want to do is I want to merge.
It's interesting that it contains commits that you already merged to the develop.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
it.
That's why I think that I need to push the changes. It says that it's already up to date. I have no idea. I'm thinking now. Why is it happening?
Okay, you merge develop, yeah, to the feature parsers abstraction layer.
I have merged the code from develop.
Yeah, but
merge into current branch.
yeah, but it's the local branch you need to pull from the remote.
Yeah, because it's not, the develop is not updated. Yeah. Okay. Now it will work. Push.
Yeah, and now I see 6 files.
Yeah,
files
and
changed.
me also, but I need to also the stream to see that. 6 files. Nothing. I don't know if I need to explain this because this is something pretty easy or pretty obvious, but what I created here is an abstraction layer over the parsers basically. So we would like to have transaction ledger reader which will read the transactions from different files. So we always want the list of transaction, and read transaction is basically, this is an implementation of the reader that will do the reading of certain, let's call it maybe not even files but sources.
Okay, yeah, and I created the interface iSource model, which is very similar to this. And you can pass the iSource model to the go to the orchestrator and to the core probably. To the abstract. SAGA model source, yeah. Yeah, and you see the get SAGA model, and this SAGA model is like your ledger, yeah. um, yeah.
Okay, so we need to.
And yeah, and you can go to the orchestrator dependency injection because I want to show you something. Yeah, and to the service collection extension. It's the last one. And you see the method add model source, so you can add the model source. It will be registered to the service collection and resolved in during the creating the orchestrator. It will all the SAGA models will be read and merged into one and passed to the orchestrator. You just need to implement this.
So I need to redo basically what I done.
Yeah, but I mean, you have a slightly different strategy, let's say, because open your.
I do, but now if you already done it, there is no point of me doing it a different way. If you have. Okay.
Not
some warnings pushing.
Yeah, but your operation model is better. I mean, you have a step number, you have a completion name, because I mean, yeah, it can be. I don't have completion name, for example.
I will mix it together. I will redo this based on your code. I will redo this so we can.
Yeah.
I will skip it. I will skip it. Where is it? Pull requests. I want to close it and I cannot close it now. How to close the pull request here? Because we won't be merging this definitely. Edit? No. Open? Can I click anything? I feel like I'm way older than I am. Close pull requests. Okay.
And the second one.
And the second one is basically files. Okay.
Yeah, it's to the main, so you need to change
it's
the target.
Main. Yeah, the change. But again, this is actually updated.
Yeah. Here we have iParser.
It's a bit. It will be redone because I redone in this pull request. I have redone those interfaces a bit. I've split the readers to be.
Yeah, read from file async and read from internet async. I don't understand a little bit what are you want achieve here, because I mean, maybe let's go to the to the parser, and in the parser you checking the source to get the appropriate list of transaction. I mean, it's only work with the reader. Why reader just don't decide, okay, I know what is the source, so let's use the right one.
Because you wouldn't be.
I
I
mean,
wasn't.
it's
I've
yeah,
splitted it
sorry.
because I have created this in a single file. I've created this in the single file, but then I wasn't able to test this because I needed an abstraction layer from this interface to cover for me the things that I'm not able to easily mock, like HTTP clients or file open read. So I wanted to have abstraction over that so I can write tests that will, for example, check if it's doing the switch, so if it's launching the correct methods. So
Okay.
this is why I done it, so I will be able to perform tests over it.
So yeah, but you
Because
know,
I wanted to do.
you creating the HTTP client inside, and I think it can be injected. It's the first thing. Second thing, I mean, you have two things in this file. Getting string from the source and then transforming this string to your list of transactions. And I think it can be just two readers rather than one reader with the inside one file, because you can have a JSON internet transaction ledger reader and have a JSON file transaction ledger reader, and then you have two implementation of iTransactions ledger reader with very simple one method, read, just read.
Mm-hmm. I see your point. Let me think about that for a second.
And then you can inject the HTTP client to the internet one, because now you cannot inject because you don't need HTTP client for reading from file async. So why you need inject it? Yes, yeah, that's because you created the new HTTP client inside the method. But in the .NET world, we rather use the .NET HTTP client from the constructor, which is injected by the dependency injection.
In my .NET world, I usually done it like that and put abstraction layer over it. I rarely injected it with dependency injection. I don't really
so
remember the reason, but now I'm thinking about. But now I'm thinking about something else that you said. If this should be split into two readers.
I mean, you don't need a get source. You don't need, multiple method, because if you, for example, have a third, fourth method of sources, then you need to add again and again more methods to the interface. Instead of it, you can just create the very simple, very specific piece of code that creates very specific things.
Okay, then let me explain to you from where did I start, because I did not start this from the perspective I think that you are looking at it from. So from perspective of reading a certain file, so from this implementation, I started rather from the side that if I would be using it, what what would I want to configure and how. And from my perspective, what I would want to configure would be where is it? It would be a source from which I want to get something, and it will be path or URI to certain place. And from this point of view, from the user perspective, I came to conclusion that if we will have different readers, I mean, this will be common, so there always will be source, and I expect some kind of path, because I also looked at it from the from like JSON and YAML that we discussed. I honestly don't know upfront what different sources might be from the top of my head. So I wanted to configure it with a path and with a certain source. And this is how I started with that.
Okay.
And then it's the easiest way from code perspective to, on a certain source, launch different type of code. And then going to your way of thinking, how then would you change it?
I would change it if I have something like that, parser, for example. I'd rather not inject iTransaction ledger reader, but the configuration and the factory of the readers. And if the if the configuration, in the configuration you have a source, and the factory can create for you the appropriate
the reader that you
for
do,
the source.
and it would launch the method to read the file.
Just one method, not 3 for each source. Then you have a multiple readers that are specific for the source, rather than one reader with the method with the one method for one source. I think it's more readable. Maybe not readable, but maybe
no. I understand what you're saying. It's more. It will be more flexible to create different type of readers that will just have one method. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I will redo this together with the code.
Okay. And maybe you can use this iModel source. You can change it. You can name. Maybe iModel source could be renamed to this parser or something like that. Let's become familiar with this piece of code I showed you. iModel source and how it's registered. And I think it will be helpful for your work.
Redo this to a factory handling creation of the readers. And okay, now I'm thinking also about something else that Now I'm thinking about maybe moving also some of this into an abstract class, but
Yeah, if I think if you created some, readers, and you will see that the same code is used, then you can create base class if it's needed.
yeah, yeah, probably
But
for probably for this
it
probably for this factory, but I will see
yeah,
once
it's
I write it.
always next step. I think the apps. First, I always create multiple things, and if I see that something is very similar, then I created the abstract. Not similar. Similar is not the reason I created the abstract class. It must be the same from the perspective of business cases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. That's why this came to my mind now about this, but we'll see. We'll see later on when I will
Mhm.
redo this. Okay. What else I wanted to do is talk with you about. Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm,
One task
about
about
this
this
reading saga
segregation.
definitions, if this should be on me or if this should be on you, and
Mm-hmm.
because the description we made is pretty brief to make the orchestrator read the provided file. We kind of discussed this before the stream, so I imagine once again that there will be some piece of code that will also be run on launch and that will
Mm-hmm.
run the reader. So
Yes.
I
So
would consider that
mhm.
this task is about it, right?
Yes, you created the parsers, and this is the piece of code that it will your parsers will consume some files from convenient way. Like uh, I think it's in this task you can create the extension in service collection extensions that you define that you want to read from file or something like that. I mean, it's pure about consume mm, the files. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a tool for reading, and you want to uh, integrate into the system. Mm. Yeah, maybe you even will do some job in the same PR, so maybe you can go with the two things in one PR because it's very similar and really connected to each other. I think
Yeah, it is,
the
but
creating JSON parser and reading
yes,
this.
that's true. But we had it split into two separate issues. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep the PRs are as small as
Yeah, that's
possible.
right.
So that's why I know that like all those three can be created as a single PR, honestly.
Yeah,
But I
probably.
believe that if there is a possibility to create a small PR with the abstract layer, a small PR with the parsers,
Mm-hmm.
and then a small PR with the definition reader or the Saga definitions being loaded into Saga log. If I can, create three smaller ones, then it's easier for someone who is reviewing to basically read them. Uh, yeah. Uh, okay. Also, what we can do, well, going back to the project then. Um, do you want to make the refactor with the naming, or should I? Probably I should,
Yeah,
because I will
you should
be.
because I mean, I proposed some names, and you can now, be familiar with this and decide we need to some change. You can, call me and say that my decision is that we keep something or we renaming. You can, make a discussion with me, but yeah, let's you can change this, I think, during this your task. Yeah. And namings related to those SAGA model and transactional operations and something like that.
Yep. And now Orchestrator. This is something for later consideration. Consider. Okay, so this is about this corner case. Imagine that there is a transaction with 5 operations. We have marked the log that transaction is failed on operation 3, but there is an operation for a message received. Should we launch the compensation right away? Make the user decide on behavior. Whoop. Okay. I will leave it somewhere here for the consideration.
Nice.
Okay. Do we have something else that we would like to discuss?
I think no, it's all.
So what will be the next thing that you will handle? Because obviously I will do the refactors and finish up this part.
And
with
and the work for me for the next week will be the implementing the orchestrator algorithm, which I described today.
So basically you will be working on from 16th
orchestrator received an event. Okay. So you want to assign me to the next?
No,
because
now I'm thinking, haven't this been done already, or like?
No. I mean, orchestrator receives an event. It's the. I mean, I created only the idea, only the algorithm, but I haven't implemented it already.
Because the algorithm basically covers from 16th to 20.
Okay.
Doesn't it? Or like it is?
Yes, 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 a little bit. So, what we have in the orchestrator, this is an event. Can you open this then? Okay, it's the store it and run to the next step in the saga.
So you should probably, before making that, you should handle the saga log itself.
Or I can create just the interface, yeah, for the
Or
saga
you can
log, not
create the
the.
interface for a saga log, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but 10 is not the. I think 10 is the part, and 10 and 11 is the part of this algorithm, and
It is,
the received
obviously.
and yeah, yeah. So, but it's not done yet. I think it. So I think it will be first PR, yeah, for the next stream, and I will go down mm, by the order.
Okay.
The saga log, yeah. So no, 10 is not done yet. It will be done in the next week, probably.
And what about this one that's in progress?
No,
Abstraction.
it's done. It's done. I forgot to change it to the done. Yeah.
Okay, so I can set this as in progress.
Yes, yes, yeah, because yeah, we can move it to the progress. So we have everything.
Okay, yeah. Seems like we are all set. Okay then, let's wrap up. Thank you, Shimon, for your input.
Thank you.
I need to redo everything, but that's good. That's actually a very good input, and I didn't see that right away. So the way you propose will definitely be better. And what? I'm waiting for the orchestrator part, and let's start gluing this all together then.
Yes.
Finally,
yes.
and let's push it forward. Okay,
That's
then.
right.
Have a nice evening, YouTube, or whenever you're watching. Thanks. Like and subscribe, and see ya on the next stream, I guess. Bye.
Bye.